Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode is a game review from week 4, and I'll be covering the Giants' visit to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers, with the Bucs were eventual winners 25-23 on a last second field goal by the very shaky Nick Folk. As always, I'm going to go through the game from both perspectives, offensively, defensively for both teams, how I thought both teams executed their game plans, made adjustments, what I saw on film, and look at both of these teams looking forward. Not too much of a focus on stats in this one. There's plenty of people that do a great job of that stuff all over the place. So, just going to get this one out of the way because it's an easy point. I've made it clear in the other 2 episodes we've discussed this week. The Buccaneers need to go get themselves a new kicker. It's going to cost them a game at some point. Play the Patriots tonight. They haven't got a new kicker yet. I'm frustrated by this and really hoping it doesn't cost them this one, but it felt like a warning to me. He'd been shaky in week 1, shaky during pre-season. It's another bad game where the Buccaneers really should have been home and dry by half-time. It could have been a far more comfortable finish for them, but the kicker situation continues to be an issue. We're at 2 missed extra points and 3 missed field goals on the year, I believe, off the top of my head. That's not good after only 3 games. That's awful. So yeah, they need to sort that out. If it ends up costing them a route into the playoffs, then only themselves to blame. The warnings absolutely have been there. If I was GM, I'd have got rid of him after that game on Sunday and brought in somebody else. So we'll start with the Buccaneers offense and the Giants defense. This was the highlight matchup for me. Giants defense, one of the better groups in the league. Don't let the 0-3, now 0-4 record fool you. They're still a very good group. And the Buccaneers offense, not quite playing to its full potential yet at this stage. This was their last game without Doug Martin though, so they should be a bit better in upcoming games. And I thought the Buccaneers definitely got the better of this matchup. Early on in the game, trying to establish the run, managed to pop a big run on the first touchdown drive by Jaquiz Rodgers, showing a bit of elusiveness. He's not really done that too much in his time in Tampa. He's been more of a up the gut, lower the shoulder, fight for extra yards kind of guy, and that's fine. And that's what this offense needs from its lead back. But he managed to break a couple of tackles on that one. Very impressed generally with the Buccaneers ground game in this one. A lot more effective than I was expecting. Not dominating by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a very tough front they were running against. Now the Buccaneers were helped out somewhat. Snacks Harrison got hurt in the 3rd quarter, I believe it was. Returned to the game, but clearly playing hurt. They lost Olivier Vernon as well, which helped this Bucs team massively. This was probably the best performance the offensive line's had all season. It was against a good front. Jason Pierre-Paul was kept very quiet in this one. Wasn't a lot of pressure on Winston, and it allowed the Buccaneers to have a balanced offense. They absolutely didn't against Minnesota. Didn't help they fell behind early in that one, but they also were having no success running the ball when they did attempt it. So they were forced to go be one-dimensional by both the play of the opposition team and the scoreboard. Whereas this week they didn't have that problem. As a result, Jameis Winston was allowed to utilise the play. Well, not allowed, but able to utilise the play action effectively. Had a few big plays off of that, including the 2nd touchdown in this game. OJ Howard, just a little roll-out type play action run to the right-hand side. OJ Howard starts on the right, coming across the field, and his linebacker basically ignores him. He is on his own on the left-hand side of the field. No one anywhere near him. Has the easiest touchdown of his career. And first play over 50 yards for the Buccaneers in the passing game for who knows how long. But yeah, it was an absolute bust. The first Buccaneers touchdown was just the most standard Buccaneers touchdown in the playbook, a one-on-one fade route to Mike Evans. This was coming off a quick drive. The Buccaneers started fast in this game, a lot of explosive plays. The first touchdown set up by an excellent punt on special teams, Brian Anger has been a real weapon since he got to Tampa. They're lucky to have him. Not that people pay too much attention to these things, but he is an asset to this team. Great field position. One big run sets him up in position. Eli Apple just could not handle Mike Evans. Eventually the Giants realised this. Put Janoris Jenkins on him, which they should have been doing from the off. I could have told him Eli Apple was not going to do a good job there. And he just got beat. Over the top. Wasn't a great throw. It wasn't one of those impossible to defend ones. Didn't really get his head around and locate the ball. Pretty easy catch in the end for Mike Evans. That gave him the lead. Another quick 3 and out. Once again, the Giants incredibly sluggish early in the game. But I'll get to that later on. But yes, the Bucs looking sharp early in this game. Then they hit a bit of a lull. Missed the extra point off of that second kick, making it 13-0. And all of a sudden, another reasonable drive and missed a field goal there, and things just went stagnant. And this has been an issue for the Bucs for ever since Jameis got to Tampa, where the offense just goes really stagnant. Now in the third quarter, once the Giants, in fact I think it started in the second quarter, once the Giants had started to get back into the game, Spagnuolo started blitzing. They weren't having great success with their base defence. The Bucs were having some success running the ball, but they were having a lot of success passing it, and there were some breakdowns. So they thought, we'll put pressure on Jameis. It absolutely worked. All of a sudden, those run lanes were gone. Don't think Jameis did a good job recognising blitz situations in this game. Maybe it was expecting the Giants to fall out of them, or maybe just didn't see it at all. But it could have been pick sixth. There was a pressure up the middle by Landon Collins, not picked up. Jameis just guilty once again. This is one of the primary habits he needs to get rid of, is when he just stares guys down, and usually it's Mike Evans, especially when I think he sees there's a blitz coming and he knows he's got one-on-one coverage with Evans, and he just instant the ball is snapped, just goes to him and just follows him. It's not high-level quarterback play by any stretch of the imagination, particularly when he's not your hot route. I mean, I know you want your big play opportunities. You've got Mike Evans one-on-one. You want to take a deep shot. Understandable, but look for it if the hot route's taken away, maybe, or see if it's there instantly off the snap of the ball. Don't just stare at it and hope it comes open. It's going to lead to a disastrous play at some point, and already led to a pick in the Minnesota game. There's going to be more heading his way if he doesn't get that problem resolved. But just needs to make better adjustments. A few times in this game he was blitzed and just did not handle it at all well, whether it was reassigning the blocking or even looking for a hot route. Just nearly allowed the Giants back in the game. They were fortunate, really. James did a good job taking care of the ball otherwise. Decision making in terms of when he had time was pretty good throughout this one. There's always going to be those plays where he believes in his arm strength, and the arm talent is, you can't really doubt it. Made a ridiculous pass into double coverage on a slant to Deshaun Jackson that just probably shouldn't attempt, but he completed it anyway. Another throw like that to get a first down to Mike Evans in pretty tight bracket coverage. It was open, but it was a tight window. Maybe wasn't needed in that situation, but that's Jameis all over at this point in time. It's going to be a long time, if ever, before they get that out of him. But one of his better games, the third touchdown, was a beauty to Cam Brate, who definitely deserves a mention. He had a really solid day in the second half anyway. First half basically non-existent, but did a great job on the game-winning catch. Essentially just had Landon Collins on him. Using Landon Collins in nickel a lot in this game, and I'm not sure that's a great idea. I think he's at his best at the safety position because he's got exceptional vision and instincts there. I get that Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is not a great option at corner at this point in his career, but I wouldn't want to lessen my secondary at the safety spot for the sake of that. And Bucs got a couple of plays off of these situations over the course of the game. One, Adam Humphries, big catch and run that set up set up the touchdown, actually. That was a poor attempt at a challenge by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie on Humphreys, landing to get an extra 15 or so yards the next play. Cameron Brate, exceptional move on the linebacker, just a little out and up type move, wide open, easy throw, easy touchdown. And Landon Collins lined up on him on one-on-one, no help on the outside, and decides to play press, and Cameron Brate does what a tight end should do in that situation and just puts hands on him, moves him out of the way and runs. And nice pass by Jameis over the top, and that sealed it. But the Buccaneers missed opportunities will define this offense in this game. The first and goal, in the 2-minute drive at the 1 yard line. Didn't like the play calling here. I don't like utilising a run on first down. I'm a firm believer in just keeping it simple and just trying to pound it up the gut on first, because they're expecting you to do it, but you've got to demonstrate that you can do it, in my opinion. And they've been doing a solid job running up the middle in the game up until that point. And just Jacquizz Rodgers, maybe if I've got Charles Sims in there, but Jacquizz Rodgers hasn't got a great amount of burst to make that play, get stuffed easily, then poorly thrown fade to Mike Evans, which is surprising. They've got that throw pretty much down at this stage, and then on third down, Cameron Brate with not an easy catch, but a catch you'd expect him to make. And at that point the game was 16-10, where really Buccaneers could have been up 24-10 if it wasn't for the missed field goal, the extra point miss, and failing to convert on 1st and 1 at the goal line. These are the kind of mistakes this team can't afford. Fortunately for them, the Giants got off to such a slow start in this one. But the offense, what they did well in this one was adjusting. I did suggest this in my preview last week, so I'm glad that it came to fruition and worked. The outside receivers, once Mike Evans had Jenkins on him, he had a quiet day, wasn't able to get too much done, had a couple of drops, one of them forced. A really nice play by Jenkins. Deshaun Jackson, him and Winston still not on the same page. I mentioned this a few times. The opportunities have been there down the field. It's just, at least he's overthrowing him rather than underthrowing him. But that timing is just not there at this stage. See Deshaun Jackson getting a little bit frustrated. But hopefully that'll click soon for the Bucs. Nice to see Adam Humphreys, though. Him and Cameron Brate really ended up being the difference makers to get the Bucs out of this funk. Good job on the outside receivers. Someone had to step up, and it was those two in the second half. They gave the offense a spark and ended up having decent games, helping them beating those linebackers. Those are the matchups when you look at that Giants team that you should be able to exploit, and the Buccaneers finally did so. The middle of the field especially was being left wide by the Giants blitzing, so they made the adjustment. A little bit slow for my liking, and probably should have been a part of the game plan from the off, but they got there, and it ended up being enough to see them through. So a lot of credit to the Bucs for the eking it out in this one, what could have been tough circumstances with all the injuries and the kicker malfunctioning, going into that funk. They managed to pull themselves out of it. Jameis Winston, very good in those fourth quarter situation. Well, hurry up offense, exceptional at. The Buccaneers should use more of that, in my opinion. That's when he looks most comfortable to me and gets in rhythm. Seems to struggle sometimes. This is where those cold spurts come from. Once he loses it takes him a while sometimes to get back into the game. So I think the Bucs should utilise more hurry up in future. The Giants defence, not their best performance. Offensive line really struggled. I didn't really mention this with the Bucs, but the offensive line was very, very good in this game. The run blocking was fine. It gave the Jacquizz Rodgers a chance. He did a good job getting the yards. Wasn't really creating big seams, but enough. They were functional, but the pass protection really held up in this one. Jameis Winston had plenty of time in the pocket, even had time to escape. Make a couple of good runs, good decisions when he took off running in this game. So they definitely deserve a ton of credit. I thought they were going to really struggle. And it's disappointing from the Giants defensive line. No pressure against a line that struggled so far. That's got to be disappointing. Outside of Janoris Jenkins, I think the cornerbacks didn't do a particularly good job in this one. They got picked on a little bit. It's a talented group, but with the lack of pressure, it was always going to be difficult over the middle, tough. Just early in this game, the miscommunication for the OJ Howard touchdown, that's not acceptable. That was a gimme basically. So that was poor. The initial game plan was basic, just playing some zone man mixes and hoping that the defensive line would get some pressure and force Jameis into mistakes. It didn't happen. They made the adjustment. The adjustment was correct, and it very nearly worked. Once they started playing aggressively, they started to get a little bit of heat on Jameis. He started making bad decisions, and the coverage generally held up better. Weren't being forced to chase receivers all over the field. Landon Collins had another good day. Heck of a player. Jenkins had a good day. But yeah, this game was lost early for the Giants in a lot of ways. Both sides of the ball deserve a lot of credit for coming back in this one easily. 0-3 down 13-0 after about 11 minutes. Easily could have went into a tailspin, but the defense started to get some stops once the blitzing happened. Secondary tightened up. Run game, it was pretty samey throughout. They did a fine job against the run, nothing exceptional for me, but not a bad game by any means. Very disciplined for the most part. Tackled okay in this game. The few that they did miss really ended up counting. The worst performance I think the Giants defence has had thus far this year. It was just surprising the manner in which that happened. Really expected, if it was going to be anything, it'd be the guys in the secondary getting picked on that you'd think might be, and maybe some ridiculous improvisational plays by Jameis Winston, but didn't really have to see any of those. On the other side of the ball, much improved from the Giants. It looks like they've figured something out. A lot of movement on the offensive line. It was a new group this week. Justin Pugh at tackle. Bobby Hart had been an absolute liability on the right hand side. Still Eric Flowers on the left. I guess they're sticking with that draft investment. But the interior looked a lot better in particular. So they did enough. No sacks in this game. Bucs were able to get some pressure once again up the middle. The concern from the Bucs side of things, once again, no edge rush whatsoever. Noah Spence hasn't really had that breakout year many were predicting. As is what I thought he was, not the most explosive edge rusher. So Gerald McCoy was on fire early in this one. I mean, first couple of drives he basically broke up by himself. Can people start taking tackles for loss as like a big deal? A sack is a big deal. Why is a tackle for a loss not a big deal? It's a sack for 3 yards, a run that gets stuffed for -3 yards. It's kind of the same thing. But I don't know. He had plenty of those in this game. Generated some quick pressure. Giants early on, the game plan clearly was to establish a run. This game started off in a monsoon, by the way. How did I not mention this? Both the first drives were just washouts, and then it dried up and the game got going. But clearly wanted to establish a run. Could have been partially the issues. Ended up giving up on that. Of course, they fell behind early in this one. Once the game tightened up, they did go back to it. So give them credit there for not forgetting that it existed. And when Paul Perkins got hurt, I think we saw the new running back for the Giants. Wayne Gallman came in, looked vastly better than Perkins. Perkins, to me, I think he's got some talent, but he's a player that perhaps just needs some time to sit at the minute, just running with no confidence. I think he's kind of like when a quarterback gets shell-shocked from being sacked too much. I think he's got whatever the running back equivalent of that is at this point in time. He's showing very little awareness and vision when he's running, and he's just kind of following the play as it's drawn up almost regardless of circumstance, and showing very little elusiveness and decisiveness. So I think the injury could do him a world of good in the grand scheme of things. It gives the Giants a chance to look at their new back. Performed well, had a touchdown in this one in the receiving game. There was a easy pass for Eli Manning. Just at the backfield in the flat, absolutely unaccounted for, as easy as it gets. So that now helping with his confidence, but he just looked more explosive and was getting to the holes quickly. Didn't do anything spectacular, but looked far more functional and threatening than what we've seen from Paul Perkins thus far. So I think that's your guy now, New York, for the next few weeks at least. And Eli deserves credit for bouncing back in this one. Had a really strange game. I think his receivers let him down a lot in this one. There were a ton of drops from the Giants. Once again, Brandon Marshall is just so inefficient at this point that I don't think he should be seeing as many targets as he is. Really need to start distributing some of those between Shepard and Ingram. It's just between the drops and the lack of explosion that I'm seeing from him, it's too much. In some critical situations as well, Odell had a couple of drops early in this one. It took him a while to get into the game, but when the Giants were trying to win this one in the fourth, he showed up, which shows you the kind of player he is. Still doesn't look quite himself. High ankle sprain, I said that was likely going to be the case. These injuries do tend to linger. But yeah, nice performance. Came up big when they were looking to close this one out. Sterling Shepard just not seeing enough targets, but I like the look of him. He had a couple of nice plays as a slot receiver in this one. Whilst I like the idea of him as a slot receiver, I just don't think he's seeing the targets. And there were opportunities to get him the ball in this one that Eli didn't take, opting to go outside instead. And Evan Ingram started this game looking really good, but then just, again, disappeared. Eli decided to go with the two veterans toward the end of the game. Ingram's, they need to just treat him as a receiver, not looking like an effective blocker at this point. That may come in time, but it's not there at this stage. He's just another slot receiver to me, one that occasionally lines up on the end of scrimmage, the line of scrimmage. But yeah, he made a couple of really nice grabs in this one. In terms of when he during the draft process, he is exactly what people were saying he was, and that is just an athletic freak with great ball skills. So Giants have to feel good about him. But we'll get back to Eli, sort of finish up on the Giants' offensive side of things. He had a touchdown running this on like 14 yards. That was embarrassing from the Buccaneers' perspective, you'd have to think. But his decision making was pretty good. I think, as I said, let down. I think the best game he's had this year, not even close. The whole offense struggled to get going early. They stuffed on every run for the first 15 minutes or so. And Eli, a lot of incompletions, was very scattershot early in the game. This is when the Bucs happened to be getting the most pressure over the course of the game, but it looked uncoordinated. It looked like the communication was poor. It was just kind of iffy in every phase. But once he got going, and the Giants figured out this is what I was expecting them to be this year, and that was a dinky dunk type of offense, relying on yards after the catch, because they've got so many guys, spread teams out, make easy throws, don't rely on that line to pass protect for too long. And once they started to do that, they looked pretty good. The issue was when you play that way, those drops that you do have end up being magnified. I mean, Eli must have attempted nearly 50 throws in this one, and there must have been half a dozen drops, if not more. And I can remember Brandon Marshall dropping at least 2 on third down, including an absolutely easy one when the Giants could have gone up 2 scores in this game had they scored a touchdown on a drive. It might not have been on third, actually. It might have been on second, but then something went wrong on the third down. Oh, one thing I didn't mention with the Bucs. Ali Marpet need to get this snapping thing together. That's like 3 or 4 bot snaps in 2 weeks. Buccaneers have been lucky. None of them have ended up being a disaster, but yeah, need to get that sorted. Giants lost their centre. That's what made that spring to mind. Weston Richburg. They'll need to hope he comes back soon. Losing centre's possibly the worst position on the line you could. Communication downgrades potentially, especially when you've got a veteran like Eli. Not something I'd be happy with if I was Giants. Should be back soon enough, but I'm sure the Giants will be hoping back as soon as possible. But yeah, their game plan, I'm not sure it came together early what they were trying to do. It was hard to tell because it just did not work. But once once they settled into a bit of a rhythm, I thought Eli played well. This offensive line played well. The run game, there was enough of one. The Buccaneers at least had to pay some attention to it, which is probably good enough for this team. If they can just get this consistency, they need Odell back. That much is clear. To full health. Without him, they just look a little bit lost. Brandon Marshall, as I mentioned, it should be their third guy at this point. I think he's either struggling mentally with learning all the new terminology and stuff, and it's affecting him on the field, or he's lost a little bit. He's definitely not as explosive as I'm used to seeing him, but a lot of mental errors as well on top. Defensively, the Buccaneers, underwhelming performance, I think it's safe to say. It was always going to be a bit of a tough one with both Quan and Levante missing, the two star linebackers for the Buccaneers. As a result, very little blitzing from them, which is what I would have expected. Just kind of happy to sit back in zone for most of this game. Try and have the front four get pressure, which they did early in this one. But when the pressure dried up, it dried up, and Eli had all day to throw. Got to be concerned with the edge rush, 100%. Did a good job against the run. Really liking Kendall Beckwith, third round pick. Not the most athletic guy, but he has adapted to the NFL game pretty quickly, and I thought he played very well at the middle linebacker spot. Made some plays in the pass game as well as the run game, including a couple of third down pass breakups. What a difference Brent Grimes makes. Secondary looked about 100 times better with him there. He did a great job in this one. A couple of deep shots taken to Odell, broken up by Grimes. It's just hard to fool him. I think that's the biggest difference between him and the other Bucs corners. I can't trust anyone else in man coverage. There's a lack of experience and talent there across most of the board. I think Hargraves is talented, but he's not experienced. He doesn't seem confident enough to me, whereas Grimes, he reacts so well. Just great ball skills. He's a heck of a player. Made a massive difference having him there on the field. And he's just so impressed with what he's been able to do in his time in Tampa. It's fantastic stuff. Once again, Gerald McCoy had a good game, but seemed to slow down in this one. They need to get a bit more production from that group. Vernon Hargraves, once again, playing guys too soft. Eventually he's going to break out, I'm hoping, because signs aren't great. Safety playing this one. Safeties were playing very, very deep. Clearly the Buccaneers' plan was to just kind of try and keep things in the middle of the field and just play clean up and hopefully get some pressure. They did an okay job of that. I thought the Giants could have been a bit more aggressive attacking the spaces between the backers and safeties, but they didn't seem confident in doing so, and maybe that worked out. Only the one really big play over the top to Odell in this one, where he beat Vernon Hargraves. Beat Hargraves a few times in this one. That one was clearly a mismatch, although knew that one going in. But yeah, kind of tough to judge the Bucs in this one with some of the injuries. The safety position still looks like it's in a state of flux. I'm not sure this team knows exactly who should be starting at this stage. The linebacking group, of course, pretty much the second string linebacking group, so that they performed as well as you could really have hoped. It's just this group needs the pressure to turn up, because I don't think this secondary is good enough, and we saw that in this one. They just don't make enough plays on the ball, and but tackled well. That's a plus. So there you go. That's kind of my thoughts on the game. The Giants touchdown I didn't discuss. Yeah, it was a nice one at the goal line. Just the backup tight end no one expects to see catch a ball. Play action rollout from Eli. That was well executed. But yeah, tough loss for the Giants. I mean, their season is done, barring a small miracle at this point. Who have they got next week? In fact, I'll talk about the Bucs. I've already done my preview of that game, so if you want to check that out, head to the page and watch that one. The preview of the Bucs against the Patriots. I'm expecting that one to be a shootout, like I'm sure a lot of people are. Both of these secondaries looking questionable. Both of these quarterbacks with a lot of weapons. But if the Bucs can win that one, they'll feel very good about themselves. By the end of the week, a game behind, and if they win that game, tied for the top of the division. Potentially by the end of the day, tied for the top of the division. So it's pretty good, especially in what has been a good division thus far this year. It's looking competitive. I mean, NFC South teams sort of getting the rub of the green in the close games so far this year. But I think it's going to be a tough division, so every win is going to count as huge for them. But I think they can get it done. If there's one time I think you probably want the Patriots, it's at this point in the season on a short week with the defence consistently struggling. And as for the Giants, I don't know if you if you're a Giants fan, if you're just hoping that they tank so that you can maybe get a replacement for Eli Manning in this draft. Might be a bit ambitious. Oh yes, the battle of 0-4s. So in the disappointment bowl, they've got the Chargers next week. It's certainly winnable. I think the Chargers have played better than the Giants thus far this year. But if there's one team that you can rely on to find a spectacular way to lose a game, it's the Chargers. Both of those teams really feel out of it. So for the Giants, I think it's just a case of trying to see this offense put together a complete performance rather than last 2 weeks leaving it far too late or giving themselves just a bit too much to do, and as a result falling a bit short at the end, and maybe rest some of those guys defensively. I'd want to see that group back healthy again rather than risking things at this point in the year. But yeah, it's definitely a huge disappointment for the Giants at this point. I'd be gutted with how things have gone so far. Having headed into the season with high expectations, I expected the Giants, with the Ezekiel Elliott injury, I thought they'd be competing for a wild card spot. I've had the Eagles to win that division. Feeling pretty good about that one at the moment. But that division's better than I expected. So yeah, there you have it. Those are my thoughts on this one. Buccaneers deserve to win. Could have been more. Giants, some positive signs, but this is still a very, very flawed team, and they just need to be a bit more consistent on top of that. So, as always, let us know, what do you guys think of this game? Anyone you think stood out? Anything you think I missed? Give us a shout. We've got the comment section below, the Cover Zero Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. And I'm always happy to talk football. And if you can check out some of the other stuff, we've got game reviews, game previews. Got the Cover Zero Roundtable that do live every week. Me, Dan and Arnie just talking about each game that's happened, each game coming up, as well as all the news that interests us over the course of the league. They're well worth a watch. They're a lot of fun to do. And the new stuff I talk about, the Buccaneers every week. We've got Arnie talking about Titans every week, hoping to maybe bring in a couple more people to talk about their respective teams. For those, they're more of a kind of specific fan targeting episode, I guess. But yeah, if you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Been a pleasure, as always. Have a great evening, and go Bucs.